All right, so everyone, welcome to Verified Podcast. We're gonna do a wrestling episode this time around. It's not all gonna be wrestling, but figured this would be a nice way to kick it off. I got Derek with me and Slark, and if you guys want to introduce yourselves.
I'm Derek, like he said. That is of course what the D and the DF stands for. So happy to be here. I can't remember if I was on the first episode or not, Tony. I can't remember, but
I
I don't
don't
know.
believe
I
you
know it's
were.
gonna be fun regardless. It's anytime we have a conversation, this is interesting. So
And I am Slark or Slark Dog. Nobody here calls me by my government name, so we're going to leave it as Slark. Um, for allowing me to be here. What are brought up and get a little passionate behind what's going on in the world of wrestling right now. So should be fun.
absolutely.
Do you guys just want to get on into the kind of meat and potatoes of it? Let's talk about Vince McMahon stepping down for one. Huge news over the weekend, like groundbreaking in the wrestling community. Uh, honest, you can have any feelings you want about Vince McMahon, but at the end of the day, without him, wrestling would not be where it is today. Derek, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, I mean this whole situation is kind of crazy. As professional wrestling fans, it's unfortunate because it's like you said, without Vince McMahon, it wouldn't be where it's at today. But I can't tell you how many times I've heard people who were die hard professional wrestling fans say Vince McMahon brought me here and Vince McMahon turned me away. So it's unfortunate, but the Vince McMahon of the Attitude Era and the Vince McMahon that we know and love is unfortunately not the Vince McMahon we got right now. The product sucks. It sucked for a while. It's a miracle that it's kind of hung on to what it is. I think it's hung on because of the brand name. Um, but Vince McMahon is now gone. He is retired. Vince is done. So I know we'll dive into like you said, the meat and potatoes and who's taking over here in a bit, but just as a whole, it's kind of crazy that this day has come. I was thinking about it when the allegations first dropped, and I legitimately thought that unless Vince McMahon was forced out, which I believe that's what this is, or unfortunately, he were to pass away, I don't see Vince McMahon ever stepping down. And here it is. Vince is done. So this is not to ramble here, but this is going to affect not just the WWE. This is going to affect AEW because now they have a new standard, with who's taking over for the WWE, as well as now ROH, which is obviously owned by Tony Khan, New Japan. Every professional wrestling organization now that wants to stay alive has a new standard, in my opinion, and I think that's a great thing. I think that's fantastic.
Slark, if you can add on to that.
Yeah, I'm still kind of in awe about all this because,
You cut out, man.
Wise words from Slark.
Yeah, Slark. He's so in awe. He doesn't have any words for us at the moment.
Speechless.
He's just absolutely speechless right now. You gotta love that, and that's hard to do with him. He likes to talk. So to piggyback off of what Derek was saying, he's correct. It's definitely a game changer for not only the WWE but AEW as well. It's going to require them to step their game up. And for example, if this would have happened a year ago, if you think about it, how many of those current, WW or AEW guys that are not, or like Adam Cole, FTR, all them guys, would they really be in AEW right now, or would they have stayed and hung around to like see how the transition of power was going to go? Because I think it's obvious that the next step is Triple H taking over in some capacity or being the head of creative, which kind of segues us to our next point. if all reports are to be believed, Triple H is going to be the head of creative going forward. And Derek, if you want to speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled, and it's unfortunate that Slark has got connection problems.
Yeah,
Because
Slark's having some.
we talked about this. I started a space when the Vince news dropped, and the one thing that I said was I pray to the baby Jesus that Triple H, Paul Levesque, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, whatever you want to call him, he had to be the one to take over. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can say Paul Heyman, that's great, but if you think about it, step back and just look at it from what is the best case scenario? Triple H he's not too old. Obviously, he's got a long career of professional wrestling. So, I hope with his health issues that he can, be in the best condition he can be. Obviously, that's first things first. But from the business side of things, from the creative side of things, you need a guy like Triple H. We've seen what he's done in NXT. And you look at how, Vince and the other crew, Bruce Pritchard, whoever you want to, throw in there, Laurinaitis, when they get to the main roster, they completely change everything. I mean, how many times Kevin Owens and Finn Balor, I guess, Rollins, the Shield crew, those guys are a little bit different. But as far as the recent, what is Johnny Gargano? He's no longer in the WWE. Tommaso Ciampa, he's up on the main roster. I can't tell you what he's doing at the moment. Pete Dunne, who was dominant in NXT UK, is now a side character in a faction that nobody cares about.
With a
These guys
stupid
have been,
name.
yeah, Butch. Same thing with Walter. Like, why are these decisions being made? And where I'm kind of at with this entire thing is like, okay, now that Triple H has control, what's next? Because when you have guys like Seth Rollins who have stayed alive on the main roster for years, how much further can he be elevated? You know what I mean? Same thing. I'm excited for the new guys. I just mentioned one of them, Tommaso Ciampa. You look at what he did down in NXT, and he's a Triple H guy. Like, he is going to flourish. You're talking about Kevin Owens is going to be absolutely incredible. And I know Slark's probably going to mention that now that he's back, but it's just that the guys that you saw become mega stars in NXT, which is a sub brand compared to the main roster, have just been thrown in the garbage. And I think now that you have Triple H taking control, those guys can now be the new Stone Cold, Rock, Batista, Triple H. Those guys can be the new core of people that everybody loves in professional wrestling. And I'm going to say this, and this will be the last thing I'll say before I let y'all go. CM Punk in the Pipe Bomb promo in 2011 said Vince McMahon is a millionaire who should be a billionaire. He's 100% correct. And now that Triple H is in control, this company can become what it should have always been, in my opinion. Maybe it's not going to be the greatest. It's going to take time. But look at SmackDown. SmackDown was decent. That was the first time I've watched a SmackDown in a long time. We have Monday Night Raw tonight, which, whenever you guys are listening or watching this, Raw will probably have happened, but you're going to see changes. And this is just the beginning. I'm excited for professional wrestling to be brought back to life again. That's just me.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
I was in such
Yeah, we
awe
can hear
that
you.
I was speechless for the last 10
Speechless, yes.
minutes.
That's
Speechless.
exactly what we said.
So so real quick, because I can only be on for a little bit right now, but to say my piece as far as everything Vince is concerned, I'm in awe, and the reason why I'm in awe is because when I first started watching wrestling, Vince McMahon was not Mr. McMahon. Vince McMahon was a commentator. And he didn't turn into Vince McMahon until we got the Montreal Screwjob. So that's my first glimpse of professional wrestling, is around that era. And then I got to grow up in the Attitude Era and watch Mr. McMahon and his character take form and go into the corporation, and then the feud with the Ministry of Darkness, and of course his feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, everything that was Mr. McMahon, the character, is what I thought was awesome about the Attitude Era, because it was that boss that was making work hard for all of his employees, and then you get somebody like Stone Cold to flip the boss off and go kick his ass. But as far as him leaving, Derek, to your point earlier, I was convinced that he was gonna be there for life. I never thought he was gonna be pushed out. Obviously, with recent findings, there's a reason why he was, and with that being said, I'm glad he was removed for those reasons. But I always thought we were going to wake up one day and get Twitter messages that Vince McMahon had passed away, and then that's how the transfer of power was going to happen with the WWE. I'd always said the second that Stephanie and Triple H can run this company, that is the second that the product will be much better. And to your point, as well, saying with all the mid-card guys and all the NXT guys that Triple H had a hand in, molding and guiding and making superstars, there could be the next Triple H, Rock, Austin, Shawn Michaels among us right now. They just didn't get the right push. So I'm very excited to know that Steph and Triple H are going to be running this company. I think those two actually have the wrestlers' best interests at heart when they make their decisions, and I'm very eager to see how the next couple months are going to play out. It's going to make me excited to watch wrestling again, because I can't tell you how long I've been watching wrestling and just thinking to myself, this was just a giant waste of time. They're doing the exact same thing and just recycling it every 3 or 4 months. Now I think we're actually going to see some competition with AEW, and this is going to be just like the Monday Night Wars back in the late 90s. I think this is going to be very fun for the next few months.
I personally cannot wait, because I agree with you when you say like the right wrestlers were not getting the right pushes. Just to name an example, Tommaso Ciampa, he could be a mega star by the time 2024 comes around. All it takes is the right booking. Finn Balor, which I will say is already a mega star in his own right because of his time in Japan, he's going to blossom even further under the WWE banner. It kills me to think about guys like Aleister Black or FTR, Adam Cole, guys that are no longer with the company that would have flourished under this new leadership. Bryan Danielson, even. I mean, I know he had his run, but he never really got another one. It's definitely going to be a changing of the guard.
You know what's another thing? And we're talking about the NXT guys, and I think that's obviously, the future. But I look at guys who are currently on the main roster. I mean, tonight they're doing a celebration for Rey Mysterio. That's another guy who Triple H has been able to work with and knows he's been disrespected, just flat out disrespected since he's come back to the WWE. But look at Edge. Who knows? We might now see one more. Yep, Dolph Ziggler. I mean, some of these guys who have been on the main roster now, we might get to see them finally get some respect and be used how they should have always been used. I'm excited about that as well.
To counter your point as well. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
I don't want to keep going back to NXT, but oh my God, Bobby Roode and the Viking Raiders. Could you imagine? Yeah. Street Profits, and then on the flip side of it, what about Cody Rhodes? He comes back because of Vince McMahon and all these promises, and now McMahon's going. What about Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns? Where do they go from here? I'm sorry if I just took your point, Slurk. I apologize.
It's very similar to what I was going to say to Derek's point. To counter what he was saying, like all these mid-card guys that weren't getting their right pushes, what's going to happen to all of Vince's favorites? Who's got Money in the Bank right now?
Austin Theory.
Austin Theory was supposed to be the next John Cena, and that's how Vince looked at Austin Theory. but he's being pushed down our throats as fans, much like Roman was back when he was winning the Rumble and winning these WrestleManias for years on end, and everybody was getting sick of it every single year. And the best thing that could have happened to Roman was COVID and him taking the time off. And I'm not saying it's good that he got sick. Obviously I'm happy that his cancer was in remission, but that aside, the best thing for his career at that time was to take a break and then to come back as a heel. He was looked at as a heel by all fans for the longest time, and they tried to push him as a face, and they kept booing him when he was doing his promos. They kept booing him during his matches, and all of a sudden he just takes a steel chair and goes off on somebody, and then where is this super heel been? And it was long overdue. So finally, they listened to the fans. It was a little bit too late, but I think that that's something that with Triple H now taking over, final say in creative, and him being a proponent of athleticism over natural big stature guys, we're going to see a huge paradigm shift in this company.
And
I'm gonna hop off. I'll be back in a few minutes for you.
Yep.
Sounds good, Slark. Thanks for the input so far, man.
Hey, thanks for letting me on so far.
Hey,
see you when you get back.
Yep. See ya. To Slark's point, though, you know what I just thought of, Tony? The one, I guess you could say, program maybe would be the right way of saying it. Could you imagine? Just think about this. Could you imagine the Samoa Joe Brock Lesnar feud without Vince McMahon in charge? Could you imagine that?
I would see dollar signs. Imagine Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles or Finn Balor if it would have been done right.
Yep.
They could have put on a 5-star classic. Dave Meltzer would have gave it 5 stars without the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's just so unfortunate because it's like everybody wants to sit here and there's going to be people who say, "Oh, y'all are just a bunch of marks." No, dude. When you look at the combined success that some of these guys have had other places, like when you go to the WWE, it's meant for you to be taken to the next level, not to become irrelevant. And that's what's happened to so many of these guys. So
some of these guys become a shell of their former selves, like Adam Cole. Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli.
How about this? The biggest one, AJ Styles.
AJ
Styles is one of the best professional wrestlers of all time, in my opinion.
I'll take it to another level. He was the best professional wrestler in the world when he came to WWE.
Absolutely.
And now he was in tag teams and doing joke outside of the Undertaker feud and the title wins. He's done nothing of note but just be someone's bitch or something else. I don't want to say they ruined AJ Styles, but they definitely damaged his legacy a bit.
Absolutely. And the one thing, I want to talk about quick when Slark gets back. I want to talk about it with all of us here, but the little changes too. You're not even just talking about the wrestlers themselves, but how about stages? How about the ring sounds? How about the, design and the structure and music and
dude, I don't see the rings and the staging changing much because that's just more of a standard HD format type of thing. But I can't say I wouldn't love for the SmackDown fist to return.
Oh yeah, dude. Who doesn't like a good fist?
Oh god. Or the unique pay-per-view sets, like when Backlash had the claws and all that unique stuff. It's definitely going to be interesting. I don't know if we're going to see immediate changes tonight, but definitely soon. And if I could go back to the pipe bomb, to add on to what Derek said earlier, Punk said maybe he would be a billionaire if he would stop surrounding himself with egotistical douchebag yes men like John Laurinaitis. And to add on to that, Bruce Pritchard as well, and Kevin Dunn. And honestly, Kevin Dunn, That's one of the biggest changes. Television production. We might not
Yep.
see 777 camera cuts during a match anymore. I don't look for Kevin Dunn to have a job by the end of the year, and that would be great because that would make television so much more watchable.
End of the year, dude. I think he's gone as soon as SummerSlam. I think there's no
I
chance.
hope so.
I think they have severely capped him right now because what did we say about SmackDown? Or I don't know if you watched it, but me, Slark, and Ostino were in a Discord, which, by the way, everybody join the Discord. Just kind of watching it and talking about it. And the one thing I noticed was like, huh, there's not 50 billion camera cuts and it looks more natural. And you know what? Another thing I heard Steven Larson, who they have a wrestling podcast. I can't remember who was it. Steve? I don't know. Anyway, one of the two was talking about the changes and stuff, and he had said the one thing that he noticed was on SmackDown when the New Day came out, they were on commentary. They weren't in their wrestling gear. They were in street clothes, almost like that's normal. Like, are we supposed to sit here and believe that Stone Cold Steve Austin walked around in a pair of trunks all the time? No. It's like, if you're going to have some sort of believability in professional wrestling, because we all know what it is, it's entertainment, it's television. But is it more real to have the New Day come out on commentary in clothes or in their wrestling gear? It's just stupid little things like that that make such a big difference to me. But
You're telling me wrestling's not real? What?
It's real to me, damn it. Yeah, I don't know.
While we got a moment, I do want to plug. I want to plug Underdog Fantasy real quick. Go to Underdog Fantasy, create an account, use the promo code verified1, all caps. You will get a 100% deposit match on your first deposit, and go win yourself some money. Sorry, I had to.
Who doesn't like money, people? I mean, if you like money, why not go use Underdog?
To transition to AEW for a second, what do you think this does to AEW? Like, how do you expect them to step their game up? And then maybe we can. I don't know if you've seen Death Before Dishonor over the weekend, or
I've
caught
seen
a recap.
I've seen a couple clips. I briefly know kind of what happened, but it's a really interesting question, Tony. When you talk about what are the shock waves, if you will, of what's happening in the WWE, I'm gonna be honest. I don't want to say I'm worried about AEW because I'm really not, right? I think regardless of how successful the WWE is, there's always got to be some sort of alternate product. I think that's just how it is in any industry. It's like music, right? If you like, we'll just use we'll use rock, right? If you love AC/DC, that's great. You can love AC/DC, but you always need a Led Zeppelin or somebody like that. Just an alternate. You know what I mean? The industry does better when there's more good, surrounding it. So I think that. Yeah, go ahead.
To counteract your point, like you were saying with music, you got a Browns After Dark. You kind of need an offside sport. Cody's gonna kill me.
Oh, well.
Derek, continue.
Oh, well. Yeah. Well, I don't even know how to recover from that one, but but anyway, what were we talking about? AEW? How AEW?
Yeah, we were talking about how it's going to affect AEW.
Yep. Dude, I'm going to be honest with you. AEW did very well against NXT, right? And so far, the ratings have been solid. They've been good for AEW, but they haven't been able to reach the millions necessarily that you've seen from, a few of the WWE shows and stuff like that. I think AEW is going to have to really, really step it up. And I don't mean that in the sense that what they're doing right now is bad programming, but what they have against them is the name brand. AEW is such a new thing. They've built this. I think it's been a couple years now they've been around. That's great. That's awesome. But
Dynamite's been a thing for 2.5 years, and they launched in late 2018, I believe.
okay, so 2.5 years. Just think about that, right? You have a company in the WWE who's been around since the beginning of time, it feels like. Longest running episodic television show, Monday Night Raw. I think SmackDown's somewhere near that. But when you look at it from that standpoint, AEW doesn't have that. AEW doesn't have, grandpa and great uncle Scott saying, "Oh, I used to watch the Attitude Era and I used to watch Hogan and Nash and you WCW was the days." They don't AEW doesn't have that, right? They don't have that history. So from that standpoint, it's not that they're not doing good work now. They just have to continue to build on this. And it kind of sucks when you have guys like MJF who are such good workers. I mean, you talk about that promo being up there with one of the greatest promos of all time. That's the stuff you need more of. That is the stuff that you need to bring in viewership and to bring in credibility because yes, they sold out pay-per-views and all out and it's like that's great, but you're up against a giant here. Like the WWE, whether if you like it or not, no matter how bad it's been, is still a giant. And now that it's got new leadership and new control, that giant just got even bigger. So, in my opinion, not just AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan, all these other companies have to massively step it up. But there's a caveat to that. They have to be different because the problem with WCW and I'm trying to think what was the other one? Impact. Like you can't just copy WWE. You have to give viewers a reason to watch your
Yeah.
company as well.
I mean, during that time period, there was WCW and ECW, but
Yep.
this is a better than the Monday Night Wars in my opinion because these shows aren't going head to head; they're on different nights. We could get another wrestling boom and enjoy. I could watch Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Rampage, New Japan, Ring of Honor once they get a TV deal. 7 days a week. I could watch wrestling 7 days a week. And you're getting a different product because it's different companies. Now, any normal wrestling fan that doesn't choose a side and act like the other side sucks automatically, like that's amazing for people
That's
like me and
awesome,
you and Slark and people who just love wrestling as a whole.
Well, and it's about wanting to love wrestling too. Because it's like, oh, well, and that's kind of what you just said about the whole picking sides thing. It's become sports teams, it's become politics to where you're like, "Oh, you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. Well, F you. You like the Browns. Well, F you." Like that's what it's become, but if we're going to be completely honest, let's talk about it, right? I'm an Ohio State fan. I go to Ohio State. I despise Michigan with everything in my body. But will I sit here and say that the sport of college football is better when Michigan is better? Of course it is. I can hate them all I want, but for the brand of college football, it's better. It's the same thing with professional wrestling. You can sit there and say, "Oh, I hate WWE." Okay, that's good. Good for you. You're allowed to like what you want to like. But in the same token, you cannot sit here and tell me that the world of professional wrestling isn't better when you have some of the top of the tops being at their best. That's just the nature of life as it is. That's business, right? Rising tide raises all boats. That's kind of how you have to have. I cannot speak English today. I don't know what's going on. It's how you have to look at it. That's what I'm trying to say. It cannot be a team thing. It can't be a party thing or what you like. It's got to be what makes the business better. So there should be no fan of professional wrestling on the face of the earth mad about this. I don't care how much you love AW. This is great because this makes AW better as well. That's just my opinion on the matter. Are you there, Tone Man? Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, I'm here. My mic got stuck on mute for some reason for a second. Can you hear me all right, Derek?
Yep, now I can.
All right. But yeah, it's great for all wrestling companies. Like I'm excited to see outside of the WWE, see how everyone else steps their competition up. Is there anything else you'd want to touch on? Moving away from like the Vince and Triple H stuff.
Yeah, I suppose we can talk about it. I don't know when Slark's gonna be back, if he even will be. Let's. The only thing I really wanted to talk about was like the small things, right? And I want to ask you, like, what do you want to see now from the WWE? Because for me, I don't want 50 billion different belts. I hate that. I want the Intercontinental Championship to matter because there were the old days. The IC title for some people meant more than the World Championship. That's a real thing. And again, you already talked about it. The stage designs. Bring the ring sounds back. Bring them back. I'm sick and tired of hearing a thud instead of a boom every time somebody hits the mat. Like, I've been in a ring before at an indie show, and let me tell you, the experience in person is way better when you can physically hear the sounds of somebody hitting a mat because you can relate to that more. You can't relate if you just hear a slight thud. That means nothing. But it's all about the experience. But it's about selling the product. So I think the ring sounds is another thing. The overproduction to me is something that I cannot stand right now. The ring post, why do they need LED lights? Why does the apron need LED lights? Now you have the barricade has LED lights. The stage used to be creative. Dude, just think about you can use modern day technology to your advantage, right? Come up with different designs, come up with different sets and everything to put together. Don't just put one big LED board the size of Texas as your entrance stage. Like, come on, dude. It's just the little things like that. Bring back the animated match cards where you have, I can't remember. I know at least in the early 2000s, right? You know what I'm talking about, Tony. When, it would say like Brock Lesnar versus, The Undertaker. And it's like, they're doing stuff and then it goes to a picture. Like that's the little cool things I remember from being a kid. I was born in 2002, right? I'm not somebody who got to watch that live. I had to relive that, right? And I was always like, man, that's awesome. Like those are the little things that make you fall in love with professional wrestling. I want that stuff back. Plus blood. You got to bring blood back. Trying to think what else, but I guess what do you want to see? Like, what changes do you want to see?
I would love to see the SmackDown fist back. I'd love to see unique pay-per-view sets, blood, actual storylines that don't just end with some stupid payoff. Like, I can name hundreds of storylines that Vince McMahon ruined with some dumb payoff, like the anonymous GM. It was Hornswoggle. Or the Mr. McMahon's kid, Hornswoggle. Like,
yeah.
So many star-making storylines that were just ruined because he got bored with them or tired. Like the SmackDown Hacker storyline, to present a more recent one. Just interesting things that could have been great, and he's just like, I'm kind of tired of this. I give up. I'm tired of stop and start pushes and.
Yeah.
I could air a whole list of grievances. I mean, I'm just excited for the future.
The only other thing before we move on that I wanted to mention about this was one of the biggest things to me is your championship titles. They all can't look the same. Like the current WWE championship design, I thought was great. I actually liked it a lot. I know it's a giant logo, whatever. But for one of the belts, is that terrible? No, not really. I mean, it's, it is what it is, but why can't we have the days of the creative titles, the Winged Eagle, the Attitude Era Championship, the Big Gold? Those titles look like they mean something. Why should anybody care about winning the tag team titles when they're red straps and silver plates? Who cares? And
I agree completely.
My only other thing with that, like, also look at the damn AEW tag titles. They look fantastic. Like, those look great. And the buttons. Why the hell do we have Velcro titles? Am I supposed to believe that the championship is supposed to look like a Walmart kids title?
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Bring back the buttons. But that's all I wanted to say.
Oh, I can agree completely, especially with the titles. That infuriates me. That's what I love about AEW and New Japan. And although I will say I do not like the new IWGP Heavyweight Championship. That thing is ugly. But that's what I like about these other companies. The titles look unique and look different and don't look like the same, just boring, redrawn thing. Slap the WWE logo on a title belt and call it a day 50 times.
Well, dude,
I miss King of the Ring too.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's another thing. But what did we just talk about, right? AEW. Look at their main championship compared to the Universal title. Which one looks more important to you? Like, I don't know. It's annoying to me.
Anything else you want to touch on in that realm, or do you want to try and move away from the Vince McMahon stuff? And what do you expect for Raw tonight? Like, I'm gonna look up the card real quick because I haven't really seen it. But what do you expect for Raw tonight? Do you expect any big seismic shifts? Or
I do. I think we need to hold them to a new standard now because this is going to be the first night that Triple H is control of creative. I'm expecting a lot of the small things to be a lot better, like the camera cuts, the 50 billion reruns. That's not reruns. Recaps.
replays?
Yeah, replays, recaps. Like I expect that stuff to go away. I expect commentary to be way better. And you know what's interesting to me is Triple H going to open the show.
He almost has to, right?
Because here's why I say that, right? Adam Blampier, who, used to be at What Culture, obviously he's, there's a lot of people who probably don't like him because of some of the stuff, but the guy is a genius when it comes to planning and creative. And the one thing he said he did a long time ago, what happens to the WWE when Vince McMahon retires? And the first thing he did was Triple H takes control of creative. And the first time he comes out on whatever show and announces, like, I forget what he said. I think he got rid of, what did he do? Either he unified the tag titles, which is already a thing. He got rid of a bunch of belts, right? And started tournaments.
Yeah.
So essentially, there's a tournament for the U.S. title, and you basically rebrand everybody. Rebrand the shows, come out and announce that this is a new era, right? I don't think that's going to happen immediately, but I would love to see something like that. I would love for them to just address it like it's real, because it is. Everybody knows that Triple H is now in charge.
Yeah. They could use Survivor Series as a reset button. I mean, and I was going to point out, tonight's episode of Raw would be the perfect reset button. It takes place from Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
And
exactly.
The card is the Bloodline versus the Street Profits and Riddle. The Mysterios versus Judgment Day.
Wait.
Mysterios.
Is Roman on the show tonight? Okay.
Yep. Roman and the Usos versus Riddle and Street Profits.
That will be interesting to see what they do with Roman now that Triple H is in charge.
It's a very interesting show. It's coming from one of the most iconic arenas in the world, Madison Square Garden. And you could argue it's kind of one of the places where WWE built its name, was running at Madison Square Garden. So in a way, it feels like a reset button. So it makes me even more excited to tune into Raw in about an hour. And then, you don't have nothing Tuesday unless you're a guy that watches Impact or NXT. Throw that on. Wednesday, Dynamite. Thursday, actually Impact's Thursday, I believe. You got Thursday, and then Friday you can watch SmackDown and Rampage. It takes you to the weekend. Like I believe SummerSlam's what? It's not too far away. This Saturday coming up.
Yeah, it's this Saturday. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. Now, I mean, this week and next week are going to be some pretty interesting episodes of Monday Night Raw, I think. But I think we should. You can go ahead.
No, I was just going to say on the NXT side of things, Shawn Michaels is taking over NXT. So, what happens with NXT now? You know, I mean, it's just little interesting things.
It's going to be very interesting, and you're going to have to watch very closely. But I think we should start to wrap this up. We're about the 40-minute mark now. It's unfortunate Slark couldn't rejoin us. We'll definitely try and get him featured more next time we do a wrestling-themed episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you've made it to the end, thank you for watching, listening. Make sure you subscribe to me and Derek on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Follow the Offside Sports account on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. There's going to be a YouTube soon, I believe. There is a Discord you can find on the Offside Sports Twitter as well. Follow Browns After Dark Sports. Just hit up everything. Everyone, have a nice day. Make sure you tune in next time. Nice talking to y'all. Derek, anything you want to say?
Not really. Like everything you just said. Follow me, follow Tone Man, Offsides, and if you're a Browns fan, we're both on BAD, which is it'll be not rebranded, but it'll be. There's some things in the works. Let's just say we'll get back to the what you love. So, yep, Wednesdays at 9:00 we have the BAD podcast. If you've not already, check that out. I'd appreciate it. And I think that's
Wednesdays at 9:00 on Twitter. Twitter Spaces for Browns After Dark on Wednesdays. Check out the BAD podcast on Derek's channel. Everyone have a good day.
Bye-bye.